Hello.
Now we will begin with our first academic session, which would be on the examination of nautical network and etymology of ships in ancient port towns. The session would be chaired by Professor Ranjanare, and speaker of the session is Dr. Saurabh Bhattacharya. Professor Ranjanare is the Vice President of Kolkata Society for Asian Studies, and she is the former professor of the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. And Dr. Saurabh Bhattacharya is doing his research on Bengal maritime culture since 1997. Man-boat relationship was his area of research, and he looked at it from an anthropological perspective through intense field-based research. He is presently a visiting fellow of Anthropological Survey of India and guest lecturer of Rabindra Bharati University and consultant curator at Vidyasagar University. Now I will request Professor Ranjanare to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for the introduction, and I thank also Kolkata Society for Asian Studies for giving me the chance to chair the session where the speaker is one of my favorite students. And he had been, actually he's born in a family which is very famous. You must have had and seen his creations all over Calcutta. Is Madhav Bhattacharya's father. He is a very well-known sculptor of this region, and he always had this tendency of seeing things from a different perspective than what we did. And in Anthropological Survey of India, there was one gentleman who had worked on the boatmen of and we used to call him Vikashta Chaudhary as the boatman so far, but he has replaced, and he is the actually very worthy successor of Vikashta, and he have his qualifications and his achievements given in this, so you can have a look at it. I don't want to waste time on that. You will find that he has achieved a lot, but from his younger days he is stuck to this study of something of our heritage that is not really well known. We have taken sail on various kinds of boats, many of us may be or may not, but we don't know anything about the boats that he had given us. So I would request him to present his paper, speech.
Thank you. Maybe the left one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Here, Professor Gautam Chaudhary is here, and you remember, I think, in 1997, in the month of February, you took my interview on that project on boat. And since then, 1997 February month, I'm still with boat. Thank you so much. So I'd like to present my paper through PowerPoint presentation. So just have a look. I'm going there. I'd like to share my. I will not discuss many things. I will just like to show some photographs. That is our technology of boat building. It's the technology of Bengal. This is the only technology which you can find in Bengal, not in any other parts of the world. That we call that one as patam. It's a double-ended nail. It's actually worked as a staple. After putting all those staples, you can look, those planks are moving in that way, in parallel way. It is also unique. That kind of hulk planking is called hulk. It's a kind of planking system. You can find it in the medieval time of Europe. But still we follow that kind of hulk planking where all planks are moving from one end to other end along with the central plank. Endangered Material Knowledge Program, EMKP, that is funded by the British Museum, they had given us a fund. Professor John Cooper of Exeter University, me and Jishan Alisek from Southampton University, we took that project. We worked on a boat. We commissioned a boat in that region. That was our shed. That is in near Bagnan. So I will talk about that boat, how they built that boat. But before that, you have to remember that boat is the only way by which you can fly on the water. On water, that is the only mode of transport, and that is the most primitive type of transport system. Before the invention of whale, boat was there. So without boat, migration never possible. And in this part of the world, that means in Bengal, we know it's not a landlocked country, it's a riverine in nature. So in flood area, people knows how to survive. They live with the water. So a child, he knows how to fly his own boat. There are many things related with the boat, because its boat is not an inanimate structure, it's a symbolic thing. It's a living entity. That's why at the time of handing over of the boat, after completion of the boat maker used to pray and used to give a marriage ceremony. It is the marriage ceremony. The boat maker is performing some rites. It's the marriage ceremony. That means boat is daughter. His daughter is boat. That's why it's a kind of ceremony. Here you can see the bangles and other things. That means it is the marriage ceremony. Before going to the technological aspect, just look that all boats, all planks we used to show nowadays. But earlier days, that was probably the answer. We used to cleave the planks, we used to cleave the log to get the planks. That's why in Bengali, in Sri Krishna Kirtan, it is mentioned that chiria, that means it's they cleave that log to make it plank. And that was our latest system. That is the big log. That is the big log. They are sawing it through that one. After various plants, these two all plants you have to bend it. You have to put it into fire first. After sufficient heating, then you have to bend it. And there are various methods of bending. That is the indigenous method they follow. Not only that, they also use in that way by putting some pegs. So these are all our own technology. After the bending, then you have to put the central plank or the kill plank. It is called the laying of the kill plank. They used to put the kill plank in that way. That is the kill plank. After putting the planks, after putting the kill, then you have to put all planks in that way. And this is the system by which you can tie up the plank with the central plank in this way. This is our own system. This is our own system. After placing those planks, then you have to put those double-ended nails in that way. Only in the inner hull. And before that, they used to put a slot on the outer, throughout the same. They're putting those nails. So after planking, it looks like that one. There are various joints. Those are unique. That is called Danar sharp. I have drawn that one. That is the actual situation here. And it takes just half an hour to make that kind of joint for a master craftsman. Without any measurement, without any line, they are making that one. That means they are expert on that one. They are making those joints in such a way without any measurement. How it is possible? It is possible only because they have the knowledge, they have the brain, they have the eye, and they coordinate with their hand. They are expert. Another type of joint. Here I am mentioning that they do not have any measuring tape. They only measure the boat in terms of their finger length, hand length, and other things. And in many cases, he is putting his eyes in that way. He is looking. That is the visual estimation. On that basis, they carve it. That means without any scale, they are putting all those planks in such a way it is a flawless boat. They are also using the string, that one. It means, that's why those boat makers, we call them as shutrodhar. Shutro means string. That is their most primary kind of tool. And how they are building those boats itself. Panchanan Mandal, 70 years old boat maker, he built that chot boat last 30 years ago. Endangered Material Knowledge Program provided that fund in that way that he knows the boat building, and his other sons do not know, but they are expert boat makers. So he is dictating how to build that chot boat, and on that basis they build that boat. So the master carpenters of 70 years old, under his instruction, his sons developed that boat. After putting the outer hull, they are putting those inner strings, the ribs and other things. That is, I'm showing the trade that is called sutro. The tool is one of the most important. Other than that one, there are other methods. That is a bifurcated, it's a divider. It is also a kind of divider. They make it in their own hand. These are very important tools for any boat making. Not only boat, we also put those sails. So there are sail makers. Still there are few sail makers. They make one sail for us. Is putting cotton in between two planks to make it waterproof. We call it gowni. They call it gowni. It's a caulking. After completion of the boat, we use first boys with the sail. They are the boat makers, and they are all from Mondol family. That means Panchanan Mondol, Aman Mondol, Deepak, Dilip, and Mani Mohan. They are Nomoshudra in caste. Nomoshudra means a section of the Hindu caste system. They are the low in stature. But they are the cultivators. They are not the fisher folk. They are the cultivators. They live in a place called Dihi Mondol Ghat. Dihi Mondol Ghat was very famous for boat makers. It is the place where it's just situated opposite on the opposite bank of Tamdolipto Bandar. So it's very unique to me that they are probably from that 2000 or more than 2000 years old area. Tamdolipto was an ancient port. So boat makers used to stay near about. So on the opposite side of the Tamdolipto port, probably Vihimondal Ghat was the place for the boat makers or ship makers. They used to repair or make those sails. Now they forgot everything, but probably they are the people, they still continue their old tradition. After completion of the entire EMKP project, we are now in the process of making it digitized form, various drawings and other things. All this digitized material, we have taken second to second digitization of the entire boat building. We will keep it in the British Museum archive for open access. So we are in the process of making those drawings. All types of drawings. Why it is important? Because already we have lost that tradition. In the mid-1990s, it's taken from the National Geographic photograph. In the mid-1990s, that kind of sail was there. But now, hardly you can find any such sail. They are of different kinds. Look, all are of different kinds. Still we have very little such sails. but if you can look those patches, that means they will not continue, they cannot continue because there are so many reasons.
সোনার বালুচর যেথায় বসে দিনের আলোয় চোখাচোখির
That is the Bhartiya song.
চোখাচোখির
Typically our song, woodland song.
জোয়ার ভাটায় ঢেউয়ের নাচন লাগে
It's only possible if you hoist that sail. Without sail, you cannot sing that song. Because if you have the engines, if it is making noise, you cannot sing that Bhartiya. So, if you put that
কোন পরাণে কেউ জানে না কোন পরাণে উতার যেথায় জাগে
So it means if you transfer from sail to engine, that means you will lose those Bhartiyali songs. So we are really in a tragic situation. We also know in Bengal and in entire Southeast Asia there is a popular sport. It's called Nauka Baij, boat race. It's in Sundarban. I have taken that photograph in the year 1997. Still, it is very popular, but very few in number. The boats are not in good number. Only 4 or 5 such racing boats are taking part in that boat race. We have another song related with that boat race. Rhythmic, very rhythmic. Because you have to put your small oar or paddle with that rhythm so that you can go very fast. These are all I have gathered last 27 years because this is the only thing I think. Otherwise, you do not have any structure of boat. Only in the medieval time in Bengal you can find that kind of terracotta plaque. But you will not find any planking system. You will not understand how that boat used to make. Or maybe in 11th or 12th century, this is taken from Indian Museum collection. It's also from 12th century. So these are very few information which we have actually from the real documents. Otherwise, our underwater archaeology wing in India is not functioning. We do not have any shipwrecks excavated so far which can tell us the story of 2000 years old. Instead of, if you can look into our present day boats, you can get a chance to understand our richness. That is the boat dugout. It's in all over Bengal, in low-lying areas, you can get that kind of dugout. We call it taler donga. Dungi of Subarnarekha. Beauty. Look into the shape. Shalti of Koranjali, South Chobbish Pargona. Pauka or Paukia. That one Paukia from Digha region and that one Pauka from Igra region of Medinipur district. Panshi, Kolkata Panshi. খড়কিস্তে, straw carrier, সুলতানি, cargo boat, ধোলাই, সুন্দরবন কার্গো, বালি তোলার নৌকো, বলাগড়, মালবাছারি, কলকাতা, জেলেবাছারি, সুন্দরবন, চাঁদ নৌকো, কক্সেস বাজার, পাতাম নৌকো, বাংলাদেশ, সুলতানি, বালি তোলার নৌকো, পাটিয়া. These are all different varieties. Still we have. These are all photographs I have taken. That means if you go to the field, you can find that kind of boat. And that boat can give you a story of more than 800 years. Because that from here to here, we call it reverse blinker technology. From here to here, it's called clinker technology. All planks are overlapped. Here, in the bottom portion, if you look the Viking ship, Viking era, we know 850 AD to 1200 AD. On that time, they used to build a ship. The planks they lay on the bottom of the previously fitted plank. That is overlap planking. Here, we are putting it on top of the previously fitted plank, just opposite. So, if we look into the Jagannath Dev temple and that stone carvings of Indian Museum collection, that is from 12th century. So, that was the reverse clinker technology. So, from here to here, I can give you guarantee that is up to 12th century AD, that was the boat. Later, after 12th century AD, they put in those 3 or 4 planks, later period. That means it's a development. Always they used to develop that boat, they need it bigger, bigger, bigger. So they were able to put those 3 or 4 planks later period. You know the Viking era, after 12th century AD, that technology disappeared because they were not been able to put further planks on top. But we are fortunate that our boat makers have put in those planks. So that survived. It's a living fossil. If you go to the Digha region, in Talshari region, in Bay of Bengal region, you can find that kind of boat. It's called patia. It's a living fossil. Bolagor. Nowadays we are making those kinds of boats. It's called trawler, though it is not using trawl net. It's a kind of boat. It's a traditional. They use fishing in traditional way. He is the boat maker. That kind of boat makers are all over Bengal. They knows only a few stretches of river, maybe 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers. If you ask a boat maker of North Bengal, please make a boat for me in Kolkata, he will never come. Because he knows he is an expert of a particular region, of a particular stretch of a river or a water body. He will never come to Kolkata to make those boats for Kolkata for me. That means all over the Bengal, wherever the water body is, you can find the boat makers of that region, of that place only. So boat makers are of different kinds, of different regions. They are specialized for only 1 or 2 types of boats. They are not an expert of all types of boats. They are still making those boats because they know that he is making his, it is the system, we call it Guru Shishya Parampara, by which a teacher gives maximum knowledge to his students, and the students will gain through practical training the boat building technology. And in this way, still we are continuing our tradition. He is the boat maker. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was really very interesting. I have heard about all these things, but okay, so go ahead.
Yeah.
You come with the
Madam Chairperson, with your kind permission, may I make one or two observations, small and brief, because of my pressing program, the Asiatic Society, I have to go back right now. The first point, why I stayed back, for the simple reason that Shahrukh is the classmate of my son. Second, if I have not been able to place him in a better place, at least I was instrumental in placing him on a boat. Because that was the primary fellowship that he got because of my intervention long back. And he remembers it when he gives interview. I have heard one such video interview. Third and most important is, today being 28th February, we observe National Science Day. And this year's theme is Indigenous Knowledge and Vikshit Bharat, if you remember. So I do not know whether it was by design or by default, that we are discussing this indigenous technology today on this very important occasion. And again by accident, we are in Anthropological Survey of India, where this was the kind of study that was initiated long back. As Chairperson already has mentioned about one reference of late Vikas Rai Chaudhuri, who worked on this marine technology, came up with his book Moon and the Net, and he's probably the successful successor. In between there was nobody, but we were initiated in those days, in the, I should say, mid-60s or late 60s, when late Professor Surajit Chandra Sinha was at the helm of affairs in Anthropological Survey of India. It was his primary conception of building up the structure of Indian civilization, because he got this clue from his guru, Nirmal Kumar Bosu, who once built up a kind of a paradigm. What is the structure of Indian civilization? It's like a pyramid. The lower base is all diversified in terms of its material cultural existence, and the more the arms of the pyramid goes up, the diversification gets a little less, so that you get common kind of social organization. And when you really reach the apex, it's all belief system, common. So this is kind of it. And Professor Surajit Sinha took the clue in terms of finding out the roots of excellence. And where do you get it? In all kinds of our occupational technologies. This is one. And I was also initiated those days, not for my trumpeting. Incidentally, this book is with me right now. He initiated me in a kind of study of agriculture. So this was the book Around the Club, which was brought out by this organization. I lost my copy, so they have kindly provided me with it one copy. And there was pottery technology and all kinds of these things. So by accident, and my final point, why I am here, not because of my connection with Asiatic Society or Kolkata Society for Asian Studies alone, but because of Asiatic Society starts with A, Anthropological Survey of India again starts with A, and it was originated in Asiatic Society, and which started its journey since the days of William Jones by identifying the academic mandate of going into the studies of man, nature, interviews. And we are still doing that, and I'm happy that today by accident we are discussing it on National Science Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shataputa Chakraborty, very nicely putting the whole thing together about him. So if anyone else would like to make any comment. Sir Shubhatra is going to.
I just
I would
have
like-
a question.
I have a question.
I was very interested in what you said about the board being treated as a daughter and married. Can you give me some more information on that? For example, is it for all the boats? Because it shows so many different kinds of boats. And which kind of boatmen, and is the boatman a caste group? I mean, what is that cultural relation between the boat and the boatman? If you can elaborate a little more on that. Because you spoke only a little bit on it.
Yes. Just I'm talking a little bit about that. All over the world, boat is feminine in character, she. In Bengal, it's also the same thing. Always it's a she. If the boat makers, when they build those boats, they think that they are giving birth to their daughter.
And the boat maker is a caste.
Yeah, but not any fixed caste group. Yeah, they are from the lower strata of our system. No. It's all anybody, those who are interested, they can come to learn from his guru. That is flexible. But I have not found any Brahmin to come to what. Yeah, definitely. Secondly, after completion of the boat, they used to give marriage to their daughter, and in maximum cases, and these are especially related to the coastal areas, not in inland waters, even not with that kind of ritual or something. And that family, those who ordered that boat to build, they are actually receiving those boats as their trio, sometimes their bridegroom. Yeah.
Who was the bridegroom, the receiving? The one
Yes,
who was
yes. Actually, they think that they are taking those.
commissioned.
Yes, they think that she's Lakshmi. Lakshmi means she can earn wealth for them.
So they treat her as a daughter.
Yes.
Very interesting.
I would like to know the cost of the boat that you showed. That is one. Second question is, do you have anything like banka or any kind of boat? Because early Tamil literature and also medieval literature very clearly says that the boats that were plying between the Coromandel to Bengal, Ganga, they refer to the term Gange or Ganga. And they mention very clearly the name of the boat is Vangam, in which they also even loaded elephants. That is how the medieval text speaks. Do you have any kind of ship with the name similar to Banka? We have the same term in Philippines and Southeast Asia. And also the term Vangu in Tamil, it refers to this kind of curve, the frame. Curved frame. So I would like to.
No, still I have not found in that way any name related with the Bengal boat. We call it a spoon-shaped boat. I think the hull is spoon-shaped, not a flat one, but little bit curvature. That is the typical Bengal boat. Yeah.
Professor
Very short. Thank you very much. I also visited
Yeah.
the exhibition that was a very stormy day, but I could. But now I wanted to make 2 points. One is, thank you very much also. for permitting names. One is in Bremen or Hanover. There is a museum for ships in Germany, yeah? And there is a photo of such boats. Now, if you have not visited, next time you go to Germany, you should visit, because it shows the interest of the German sailors in this very important art. The second point, which I think you should take up, I mean, you were my colleagues also at Modern Azad Institute, so you are not my student, but you're busy after all. That, you know, if you look at the Rakhine state, and Professor Shubhadra has talked about the Rakhine Muslims. Now, this is the boat making skill that the Rakhine people, the Arakanese people, mastered. And therefore, in 15th, 16th centuries, with the Portuguese, they actually dominated the whole Bay of Bengal. And that's why from Chittagong, Dhaka became the capital. Now, if you go to Myanmar, and I think door of Myanmar will be open very soon, and Myanmar, Thailand, Bangladesh, India will work together. So I would like to suggest you, if not advise, to visit the illusions in the Rakhine state and see how they dominated the sea on the one hand and Bay of Bengal, and on the other hand make the friendship with the Burman people, as I have said, because of the jade trade coming from the China. But we leave the China side, we are concentrated. So these 2 points. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you.
This is very important because Rakhine people are still doing the boat race. They are very proud of that skill, you know. And I think you have been to Rangoon, the National Museum. No, you should visit. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Since you have
any help, you can.
Since you have mentioned Viking, Tona. Professor Blake, she comes from Norway, Tromsø University, that's the northernmost university, Arctic University, northernmost university of the world, and comes from the land of the Vikings. So he has mentioned that some of the manufacturing technology is being followed as the Vikings did. So do you have any comment to make on this?
Well, I mean, I was extraordinarily fascinated, I must say, sir, about your presentation. And I immediately, of course, thought about these boat traditions, Viking boat tradition at home, because in my fjord area, we have a specialized museum who are doing exactly more or less like you have done in terms of, you know, building them in order to sustain this craft, and it's also, as you have done, a sort of comprehensive documentation around it, both in terms of digitization and other skilled documentation practices. So I was very fascinated by that. And we didn't have, I think, those double nails, but as you also mentioned, I mean, we used a combination of metal nails, one-sided metal nails, and also nails made of wood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time. And thank you very much. I thank the speaker. It was really a wonderful thing, and I was actually sailing on these country-made boats in my younger days, and I have seen a lot of the boats that he was showing, but I never knew how these were made and what kind of work it was. And I think that he was one thing that I thought I would mention, ask him, he said that they are very expert in making these. They don't have any modern gadget. Even then they make seaworthy boats, but are they usually stick to the family members, like learning from father to son, or they also go to other people if anyone wants to come and learn? And must they were learning this from their childhood days, apprenticeship or something like that?
Yeah, in maximum cases it is the family tradition, and also it is sometimes the other person, those who are interested on carpentry, they also joined, but less in number. So far, I can tell you that all over Bengal, I have found more than 500 such boat makers. Yeah, and maximum of them, almost 80% of them, have the similar family background. Maximum cases.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I think we can close the session here.
By the way, what is the difference between Shanti and Home? So, mention Shanti.
James Cornell in 1947 have written a book where he have mentioned one Shalti boat. He mentioned Shalti means shal made of shal tree. Yeah, that means the shal is the Shoria robusta, a kind of tree. The timber of that shal tree, when it is used for a boat making, they call it Shalti. But in South Chubbish Pargana area, if you look into the boats, those are not at all made of shal tree. Those are the dugouts in earlier days. So that one is different one. I do not know what is the reason, but all over the Bengal, in North India, North Bengal also, in earlier days we have that kind of long, almost 40 feet, 50 feet long dugout made from shalgach. Yeah. We had
We
this.
haven't talked about Doma. Doma is what is made of palm tree.
Yeah.
Scoop out
I have shown that one. That Dunga is a
and very
dugout.
difficult to
Yes.
row. Very
Yeah.
difficult to row.
Very
because they
difficult,
don't
yeah.
have a key.
Dunga.
Doma.
Dunga.
Have you heard about it?
Yes.
What is it? Why it was termed like that?
Yeah, and Dunga also used for lift irrigation.
And also in the, when the paddy fields are filled with water, Doma can very well go without damaging. Thank you very much. I think we can take. Time manage
বড়টা কুড়িতে
I think we start the next second academic session, which is on the trade patterns in Bay of Bengal, introduction from ancient to modern period. The first invited speaker is Professor Suchandra Ghosh, Department of History, Hyderabad University.
Ma'am, with your permission, can I speak from there? Then I can operate from there.
Sure.
And how much time?
To the Kolkata Society for Asian Studies and the Anthropological Survey of India for inviting me to this very august seminar where we are learning a lot. Without much ado, because we know that time is very short and I had prepared a presentation of half an hour. Anyway, I will just come to the thing. So let me begin with the theme of my presentation. As you can see, I have here it is till 1400, in the program it is 1500. I have just thought that I wouldn't go beyond 14. Let me begin with a quote. The river meets the ocean in a blaze of blue and green. No wonder people have made this spot their home for millennia. The fishing is good, the soil is fertile, and flood-free hillocks make it a safe home site. But its greatest boon is a natural harbor, excellent for deep water anchorage. Maritime trade boats have flowed through this location from the earliest recorded time, unquote. This was the description of the port of Chittagong by William Van Schendel in his article, Spatial Moments, Chittagong in 4 Scenes. I would take it backwards and apply this for the port of Samandar, which was in all possible ways predecessor to the Grand Port of Chittagong. So the region of today's discussion is the Northern Bay of Bengal. Now this Northern Bay of Bengal is a significant maritime space connecting South and Southeast Asia. It looms large in Arabic and Persian travel accounts, from the mid-9th century being designated as Bahar-e-Harkand in the Silsilat al-Tawarik by Suleiman Taji, the earliest known source referencing the Bay of Bengal as Bahar-e-Harkand. Harkand was obviously derived from Harikela, a subdivision of Bengal, identified with the present Chittagong area. Again, the Bay of Bengal was clearly defined as Bahar Harkal, or the Sea of Harikela, by the anonymous author of the Hudud al-Alam. This refers to Harkand as a place on the sea coast. The reference to Harkand along with Samandar as places on the sea coast is significant, being either a misrepresentation on the part of the author as the port of Samandar lay within the Harikela country, or by the fact that Harikela was the name of a kingdom as well as the name of a place identified with present-day Chittagong. I want to read the different the things that are written in the book in the thing. But what is interesting is that we have scholars, travelers like Al-Idrisi, who also talks about Samandar, and to quote him, Samandar is a large town, commercial and rich, and where there are good profits to be made. It stands up on a river which comes down from the country of Kashmir. Rice and various grains, especially excellent wheat, are to be obtained here. Alusud is brought here from the country of Kamarut, that is Kamrupa, 15 days distance by river, of which the waters are sweet. 1 day's sail from the city, there is a large island well peopled and frequented by merchants of all countries. The mention of large island is the clinching evidence to place Samandar in Chittagong, as the large island is the Sandip Island. He based a large portion of his book on the Kitabul Masalik wal Mamali Mamaluk, written by Ibn Khudadwe in the late 9th century, who also wrote about Samandar. So the descriptions point to the fact that Samandar was a premier port of southeastern Bengal at this time. Thus, it can be surmised that by the mid-9th century, both the sea and its port attracted the attention of Arabic and Persian writers and became a part and parcel of the Arab geographical world. That the sea was named after a particular unit, Harikela, speaks of the region's importance and also its popularity among the seafarers of the time. This was the moment when the people of Chittagong, then Harikela, encountered a group of people, the Arab travelers, practicing a new religion called Islam. Till then, they had experienced Buddhism and Brahmanical religion, Buddhism being the dominant one. Now, we come to the point where we are talking about Harikela and its relations with other places. So Harikela was an important sub-region of early Bengal and was linked to the regional maritime and Buddhist cultural network. Our attention to the port of Samandar was first drawn by Professor B.N. Mukherjee and later on by Professor Ranbir Chakrabarti. It is on this port, on the vicinity, which had a vast hinterland in the Ganga Valley and Brahmaputra Valley. People from Southeast Asia visiting these areas or vice versa had the only option to use the port of Samandar for the journey across the Bay of Bengal. If you look at this coastal route, then we will come to this map later and I'll explain again. But you can see this, the coast became very important here, and from the regions of Myanmar, one could take the coastal route and come to the port of Samandar and then go further north. If I have time later on, then I can explain this a little better. Then we find that people from Southeast Asia visiting these areas had the only option to use which I already mentioned. Chinese monks from which also visited this place, and they could embark on a journey to Southeast Asia. In the first half of the 9th century, Srivijaya sent a mission to the Pala court in Bengal in a move to expand the Srivijaya network. Western Bengal did not have any port at that time, So it must have been the port of Samandar through which the network was to connect. And here in this paper I am talking actually more of networks. While thinking of the larger maritime network, we often lose sight of the coasts which also connects in a linear fashion. However, coastal networks often offer interesting insights for the understanding of connected histories. In this presentation, I will focus largely on the coastal network between southeastern Bengal to western and southwestern Myanmar. We have with us today Professor Chapna Bhattacharya, who has been seminal in her contribution on this, the relationships more in a little later period. Western Myanmar encompasses the Arakan region, that is present Rakhine, which was closely linked with Harikela, both by land and sea. And in southwestern Myanmar, I should privilege Martaban to other ports like Dawei. We have different kinds of text sources to understand their connected history. The early cities of, these are just a map to show the important ports. That is the coastal route which I mentioned, yeah. Now I'm coming to Arakan. Since there is very little time, I'll be a little fast. The early cities in Arakan were located on the banks of the Kaladan Valley and were thus open to interactions with India in general and in the southeastern Bengal, Kumilla and Chittagong in particular. The two formed an environmental continuum with a climate and geography fundamentally different from the Ganga and the Irrawaddy plains on the northwest and southeast, respectively. Communication was provided by the intersecting rivers, facilitating coastal journeys or trade. Overland travel with other areas of Myanmar being difficult as the rugged Arakan Yoma closes the Arakan from Burma proper. On the side of Chittagong, the hill tracks. So here, this is the Arakan. I use this map to show that this is the Kaladan river, where we have different port sites. Then it is the Arakan Yoma. And then finally we go to the contiguousness, we see how these two areas were close. This geographical continuum led to frequent movements of people between the two areas, which were talked about by our chairperson in the morning, and some common cultural practices enmeshed within various direct and braided networks. The coinage tradition of Harikela, which is very well known now, was borrowed from the silver coins of the Chandra rulers of Arakan. These coins are the only coins among the coins found in Myanmar that bear the names of kings. Like if we look at these Harikela coins, then we see that there is a very kind of, it was borrowed, the idea was borrowed from Arakan to Harikela, and this was, again, I would mention my mentor, Professor B.N. Mukherjee, who was the pioneer in the study of Harikela coinages. So the recovery of coins bearing this similar device at Mainamati, it marks the extent to which the Arakan coinage tradition was able to penetrate. I don't have time, but just like to mention that if you look at the last section, so it was Dharma Vijaya of coins which were found in Samatata, and then on this basis some of the scholars also thought that Dharma Vijaya might have ruled in Samatata for a small period. But then we have the Odain stone inscription from Arakan issued by Sri Dharma Vijaya Deva in the second year of his reign, which shows that he was issuing coins only from Arakan and not have any kind of control over Chittagong. So along with Arakan, Martaban in southwestern Myanmar was perhaps linked with Harikela. We have textual support of more or less from the same period for this. The Manjusriya Mulakalpa, datable to around the 8th century CE, in at least two shlokas, refer to Harikela, Karmaranga and Kalashapura. There are 3-4 slokas, but I am just short of time, so I am just reading one, and which says that, and then Tara is realized with the Yaksha king Mahabala, and which are the places? Harikela, Karmaranga, Kamarupa, and the city called Kalasha. So these are connected. A reading of these slokas bring home clearly that Kamarupa, Samantaka, Vanga, Harikela, Karmaranga, and Kalasha are connected. Kamarupa is ancient Assam, Samatata is the Kumilla I just mentioned, Vanga primarily refers to the Dhaka region in this period of time, and Harikela, as you know, is Chittagong. Kalashapura was identified with Martaban. One may note that Martaban is famous for its ceramic tradition, and therefore we have the Martaban jars, and we have reference to Kalashapura also in different texts. So Pamela Goodman argued at one point of time the Kalashapura, that Karmaranga could be near Kalasapura, but recently Arlo Griffiths has suggested identification of Karmaranga with Arakan, and in view of Karmaranga's close association with Harikela and Shamatata, the identification seems plausible. Samandar was closely linked with Kamrupa. We talked of Brahmaputra also in the morning, and through the Brahmaputra-Meghna linkage and the transport of aloes wood, we know that how it was important. Now I will very briefly discuss the importance of Martaban in this network of Samandar. I had in my paper talked about other places like Sampanago, Davi, and how these were related, Muttama, Sampanago, and I remember here very sadly and proudly also, because we have the Professor Elizabeth Moore, who passed away recently, who had worked, and Wu Sanvi had worked a lot on these areas. So here they were, just to show this, these finger mark bricks were found, and these bricks had commonality paralleling finds from Kubwa, Yutong, and other early sites in Kanchanaburi. So Martaman was nominally under the Sukhothai hegemony, and it is also very linked with the Salween River. So the Salween River actually empties into the Gulf of the Martaban in the Andaman Sea. So these were all networks of connections which I am trying to harp upon. And then this was linked with the Isthmian route, the Isthmus of Tra. So the movements of people and things, commodities were possible from this. I should briefly mention here just a very, very important statement by Ibn Battuta, where he says that a princess of Kalyukari gave him 4 martabans or huge jars filled with ginger, pepper, lemons, and mangoes, all of them salted, prepared for sea voyages. This is narrated in the section where Ibn Battuta describes his travels from India to Sumatra and Java. Thus, the geographical setting is Southeast Asia. This evidence clearly indicates the utility of these jars for long-distance trade network. So if one takes into account the travels of Ibn Battuta, then we know that he also came to Sutkawan, which is also equivalent to Samandar, and then went to Habiganj and other places, Kamarupa. So there is another network that was working, and this is the Meghna Brahmaputra network. So I am not going to discuss this. And then in the presentation, I also referred to the navigational manual of Ibn Majid, where also who was a literate navigator, Muallim, and who also talks about the Gulf of Martaban. So, as I showed in this map, that from Martaban it is possible that one can proceed towards north and reach the famous port of, if we can see, so one can, from Martaban, one can proceed towards north, reach the port of Samandar. From Samandar, then go to Mainamati or Samataka area, Vanga, and then go to North India, and there Bihar region, where you have Nalanda and Bodh Gaya. And here it comes the importance of the Srivijayan network, because Srivijayan ruler had sent emissaries to Nalanda, as we all know. I'm skipping that period, so that thing, because it is quite well known. So we have seen that the sources that reference Samandar are both from either Arab geographers or travelers. None of the texts or inscriptions from India mention the port of Samandar, though they are quite vocal about Harikela from 7th century onwards. Our records suggest that the predominant religion in Harikela was Buddhism, though Brahmanism was also in practice. With the arrival of the Arabs who frequented the port of Samandar, Sutkawan, the region, was introduced to Islam. So being a port, it was open to people from different regions, Arab sailors in particular, who professed Islam and were very active here from around the 10th centuries. So therefore, before the Arab, as political power, the Arabs came to Chittagong, we have these Arab sailors who had control and who had spread. So then we talk about again the different kinds of merchants that are, even Khuddadwa talks that are present, Arab, Yemeni, Abyssinian merchants who were present in Samandar. So we have this very interesting records which talks about the presence of these traders. So the port of Samandar, or the Chittagong, later the Chittagong port, was also used as a transit trade zone for connections between countries across the Bay of Bengal. And we have here Marwazi. It is stated that in a town called Harikira, business is carried on by means of gold coins and cowrie shells, but the latter are more in use. We know these shells and reached Harikira from Maldives and was recently Shushmita Basu Majumdar had worked on this and was naturally transferred to the hinterlands in the Palasena domain, where cowrie was much used as a parallel currency. So but parallel currency because there's a continuous presence of Harikila coins, and not only in the Harikila region, we have found Harikila coins in other subregions of Bengal, which shows the mobility and that of the traders and also the people. Finally, very quickly, I would like to also talk a little bit about the influence of the ballads. There are a good many references to country boats and ships, as Dr. Sharup had shown us. And this country on board on which the enterprising people of the district of Chittagong make sea voyages for trading purposes. There is an admixture of Arabic words, idioms and phrases in the local dialects of the Chittagong and Noakhali districts, a result of the close contacts between the Arabs and the local population. And these are known from the Arakanist chronicles and of the 8th century. I'm not reading this, the Arab mariners, but what is interesting is that the Arab mariners often had shipwreck experiences also, and there are places in the Chittagong area which is known as Dinga Bhangar Bil or Dinga Bhangar Chor. So Dinga, the boat got wrecked here, so they talk of the shipwreck. So lines scattered in the district, and these, according to local traditions, commemorate the unfortunate incidents that happened to the Arab sailors. So it is certain, almost certain, that the early Horikelo coins were struck in Horikelo itself. While these coins were being struck, a port in the area must have been in the making. So this can be inferred from two indirect references. First, we know that Egypt recorded that wooing sailed from Shinghala for the northeast and came to Harikela, which was the eastern limit of eastern India. And I think in the 7th century, Tamralipta was active as a port, but Wooing sailed to Harikela. While Tamralipta was active as a port, he went to Harikela. So Harikela must have some existence by then. And then we have that Swanson mentions Shamatata's relations with Southeast Asian polities. So it talks about movement. Obviously, there was a port in contiguous Harikelas. So finally, we can say that I actually deal with the theoretical propositions of networking and others, but due to short of time, I'm not going. What we can say is that Samandar was the most prominent northern port in a polycentric networked realm that linked coastal towns in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Burma, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, and of course India. Like other coastal ports, it played host to a plurality of trade groups and sojourners from across the region. Why was Samandar so prominent as an entrepot in this networked realm? Its significance was hardly fortuitous. It acted as the gateway to another polycentric commercial network stretching to the north and east. This comprised the trade routes connecting the sea with the uplands. So here you have the connection uplands, then Tripura, Chittagong Hills and others. This morning, Gautam talked about the images. So we have worked on the continuity of the images or the bronze images from Harikela with images from Peninsular Thailand and Eastern Java, particularly Avalokiteshvara and others. And finally, through this presentation, I tried to argue in a pronounced manner that connectivity between the regions of maritime Southeast Asia with present Bengal and Bihar post 8th century CE was possible only through the port of Samandar in the present Chittagong, and this deserves the attention of scholars. There was a unity of land route and sea route in this case. This unity of land route and sea route has been argued by long time by Ken Chaudhary, and his period started from 1000. We are taking it a little earlier. And we would like to say that we have this unity of sea routes. The sea routes did play an important role in shaping up inter-Asian connectivity. So the coastal linkages between Southeastern Myanmar suggested here will need to be further things, and this is the present Chittagong area. Thank you very much. I hope I will not take much time.
A little bit over, but anyway, I think we will first take all the papers, because there are 5 papers. So let us give a chance to everyone to present, and then we will take the questions. So if you have any questions, just note them and then address them to the speakers as you want. So our second speaker is Professor Shushmita Bashu Majumdar, Indian historian, epigraphist and numismatist, Head Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, University of Calcutta. Professor Shushmita Bashu.
I just need a while. Very good afternoon to all of you, respected chair, fellow delegates and my colleagues and friends. Today I'll be speaking, since we have only 15 minutes, so we have to just rush. And I would like to complete all my slides during this period. So I'll be talking on Bay of Bengal interaction sphere and the Roman invitation coins from Southeast Asia particularly. And thanks to the previous speaker, Professor Chandra Ghosh, who has actually set the tone for the paper and has saved a little bit of my time at least. I won't have to speak about that region. So of course, when we talk about the Bay of Bengal interaction sphere, it is not only the Bay of Bengal alone. It is the closed space which we can see at its interaction with Southeast Asia, and beyond that, beyond the maritime and the internet, they are also near the other connections which are very important. You know, the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean network, they go hand in hand. So we cannot even imagine about Bay of Bengal without the Indian Ocean network here. So while looking at this presentation, you have to have the larger nexus in mind, and this paper basically tries to address the shared cultures. You know, though I will be speaking about the Roman invitations, but what I would like to highlight is a kind of the shared cultures, and beyond the shared cultures, we have the shared symbolism. And when we talk about symbolism, I just, with my slides, I would also like to demonstrate what I mean. But while going through the slides, you must have in mind that when we have a kind of a symbolism which is moving from one region to the other, at times it is adopted, adapted, and then there are modifications according to the local usages and customs. So this is a long process through which it goes, and at the end, at times the symbolism loses its basic purport. So while understanding a particular symbol or some kind of an object or any kind of like coinage or art motive, we have to understand the process behind it, which is very interesting. So all these things will be there in the presentation. But of course, when we talk about coins, we have to think about trade and reciprocity. So it's not always coins with which we can deal. You know, like trade, exchange, reciprocity has multiple objects. So I'm not going into the detail of it, but there are multiple objects like this which can act as a medium of exchange in any kind of trade, not only in localized trade, but also even in the case of international trade. And just yesterday I made a presentation where I'm just trying to show how cowrie shells emerged as a major medium of exchange in a very large nexus. So there was a kind of shared culture of exchange. Now, here also very briefly I would like to talk about it because this is very important, very seminal to my presentation. So of course the cowries were known as Kapardhakas or later covered up. So these are formalities. Very quickly, I'm just trying to trace the term, this I'm skipping very quickly. Out of the 200 shells, only 2 work function as one. One is Cypria moneta, and Cypria annulus. So annulus is the golden ring cowrie and moneta is the other kind of cowries. These cowries were also money in China, but you have to have a back cut. Then how far can you trace the antiquity of the cowrie shells? Of course, you have a lot of cowrie shells from local, which are not indigenous. They have traveled all the way to local. You have in Sulpadada. So if you know the context, it's very early. Very quickly I'll go through this. But coming to the early historic phase, you find the cowrie shells inside the Buddha's relic casket from Vaishali. So this is the relic casket, and here is the cowrie shell. You can just see in this front. If you have a pointer, it will be very nice. And many more relic caskets. Like many more relic caskets. Can you even hand over the pointer, please?
1 minute.
So, there are many more relic caskets which are from northwest, and so there are many more just money, but also have a ritualistic aspect altogether in Buddhism. So I can't go into the detail because of dearth of time. Once again, my presentation was more than half an hour. So here in the Buddhist context, you find in Maldives there are several Buddhist sites, and a lot of cultures have been found in the burial context. So these are very important. But now coming to the Roman part of it, even from Maldives, you find Roman coins like this. So this is one point of contact. Again, I'm skipping. These are from Roman coins from Maldives. Now, this is just to situate the Roman coin in the Southeast Asian context. Now, what is happening in this Bay of Bengal interaction sphere? We know that the so-called Indo-Roman trade, which we do not use nowadays, but these people never went up to Southeast Asia. So this is a kind of a braided nexus, a connected kind of a thing, where you have multiple networks functioning. Now, as Professor Suchandra Ghosh has already told about these coinages, she was talking in the context of Arike the coin, where she mentioned that it comes from the coins of this region, but initially in Arakan you find a conch motive. So you can see it's very interesting. On the reverse you have a motive. So when I talk about shared culture, shared symbolism, it is this reverse device which continues beyond the boundaries, of several multiple localities and regions. So this is something very interesting which I would like to highlight, and many more scholars have already highlighted. I'm not the one who's speaking about it. So when you look at the earliest issues of Burma Island region, you find a similar kind of a reverse motive. I'm not going into the detail once again, but see the continuity of the reverse motive. And then when you come to this pew type of coins, the obverse which we saw in the previous coins changes a little, but the reverse continues. And here again, now these are the pew coins from Shishetra, and here you find a typical kind of a motive, which some scholars identified with Yamaru, others with the Matraprita, but I am trying to identify this from the Pushpa Brahmanis. I'll come to this a little later if time permits, but then very quickly, this is a different kind of a coin where you have the conch motive and a similar kind of a shared culture of using the same thing. So how can we really understand the travel of this motive? This is again very important. So coming to India, back to India, when you see the local coins of the Kongu region, you get this conch motive on the rivers, which is very, very these are early historic coins. And when you come to the coins of Bengal, you see the boats, of course, and the conch motive is on the rivers. When you find this motive on the rivers, the meaning changes. It is a kind of a checking mark, a control mark of the controlling authority. So the conch motive is very, very important here. And then again, when you see this, here you can see a symbol which has been inserted in between that reverse symbol which is continuing. So this symbol is very, very important because this has been inserted locally, and when you come to the significance of this, you see this symbol is called Nadipada symbol, and Sri Vatsa emerges from this, and here on this symbol you have a Jayadhara, triangle headed kind of a standard. I have a figure here. You can see that in the previous one, you saw these are together. The symbol which is below here, like this, and the symbol here has been topped by a triangle headed standard. But when you go to the next one, you have conch on one side, and this again is together, a better kind of coin. And here, this was really surprising because we got these coins from western coast. These are the coins of the Shahanaka dynasty, Nahapana. We know very well that these are the Shakas. And first, 2nd century CE, you find this motive, which is half of the elephant, half of the lion, standard. So half an opposite animal standard, and then there is a whole process, the typological progression wherein this becomes so crude, and then it turns into this, and finally on these points you get this kind of a symbol. So the travel of in Southeast Asia. Just imagine it gives you a point of contact of time. How the symbol has been traveling. What is the origin of this symbol? It's shared culture, then it loses its identity, becomes something else, the purport changes, and then it travels. So when it starts traveling, you have a cutout date. For that, I don't have the time to explain, but when you see this, you know how the symbol had actually transformed into that, and when it is taken to Southeast Asia. This is the early Mon coinage, and here you can see that particular symbol. So we can now give a particular time to this. I'll skip all these now and quickly come to the Pushpa Grahani, which I was talking about. You get this from a site in Karnataka called Kannanahalli. All of you are, you know this very well. On the powder, you get this here. You know, this is a Pushpa Grahani flower receptacle, and there on the coins you get this similar Pushpa Grahani. So now we know the identity of the symbol. It's not a Bhattapita or a W, but it is that. So with this part again, I'll skip. I don't have time for this. I would like to come to the final part of my presentation, and I still have 5 minutes. So pendants from Southeast Asia are really remarkable, and recently a lot of them have been found, and Bridget Borrell has worked on them. I won't go into the details, but definitely these are from Mediterranean and from the early centuries, you know, the Common Era. But there are trading areas and link zones between Mediterranean, India, and South and Southeast Asia. Here we find something which is very interesting. We find a kind of a hybrid form. And these hybrid forms are taking a coin of 1st century for the offers and taking a coin of 3rd century for the reverse and making a single coin. So whether this is a coin, we have a question, we do not know. But this is what I call hybridity. But the question is not what is hybridity. The question is, why do we have this hybridity? Why do they need to have a coin of 2 different time phases into one, woven into one? Then today we don't have much time to talk about it, but I'll directly go to a Klong Tong find where you have, Klong Tong is in Krabi province on the Malay Peninsula, and Professor Ghosh referred to the estimates of Krab, which is very important. And of course, she was talking about the trans rule. And here we have a bead manufacturing industry, we have tin processing, and Roman imitation coins. So having all these together gives a different purport to the whole issue, and we can just now address it differently because these are the pendants which we are getting. These are not Roman imitations, very crude imitations, but definitely Bridget Borrell has worked extensively and intensively on these tablets, and you can see this, which has a kind of a loop. So when you look at the pendants from Southeast Asia, they will have a typical kind of tubular loop. And from Indian pendants, you will have only holes in there. So you know this tubular loop is from this area. And coming to this is a very crude human head, and here you have a quadruped animal, and here crudely depicted in the profile to right with traces of headgear, a seated figure of Libya as seen on the pointed massive type of coins of Tibet. So the reverse, which Borrell has identified correctly, is definitely Libya, which is the coin of Tiberius. Very, very early Roman coin, but here the head is not of Tiberius, definitely. So what is happening? When you look at the coin, you have 4 Grammy legend reading Taravapa. It doesn't make any sense, but it reads Taravapa very distinctly. When you see the coin here, you can see Taravapa very clearly, and there's no meaning. So this is gibberish legend which has been added to it, and in Southeast Asia once again. So when you try to trace the head of this ruler, the portrait, you definitely have a parallel which is from the Satavahana coinage. So this is something very unique. The Satavahana Indian coinage on the obverse and on the reverse you have a Roman coin of Tiberius, which is removed in time, but then put them together. So both these coins are foreign to the land of Southeast Asia. So they were trying to imitate something which is not indigenous, which has traveled to them, one which has a current meaning, probably the Satavahana is like the latest one, and the earlier one is that of Tiberius, and they have clumped into one. And made a pendant out of it. It is not a prestige marker, it is not a prestige good here, because we get many more such pendants, which I will not be able to discuss right now. But of course, you get one of Antoninus Pius, you get one of this kind, which is very, very crude from Cloudthorn, and there are many more. This is for Ripose technique, and this Roman coin imitations and the Ripose technique was really prevalent in the Chhattisgarh region. And here you get a lot of Roman coins which are with the slash marks, cut marks, as you get in the original ones. But see, in the Indian context, they are with holes. So they are not with a tubular loop. But why would one wear these as pendants? Because you get a cut on your throat with a, it's so very uncomfortable. So I can just go on and on this. But when you look at the Roman coin finds from this region, now we have to really segregate the original Romans, the imitation Romans, and the hybrid coins from India. Then you get a different context altogether, because you find in India they are also making hybrids. And these hybrids, the idea of hybridity is traveling to Southeast Asia. It's not the traveling of the hybrid coin to Southeast Asia, but the travel of the idea of having a hybrid. That is what is traveling to Southeast Asia. That is why they are adopting this as a shared cultural practice. And then there is a different meaning to it altogether when the presence of both Roman finds and early Chinese ceramics helps us to understand the character and position of this Cloudthorn region and as in the larger trading nexus. And here we find that the Chinese interests are also involved, the Indian interests are also involved, and how the shared culture actually develops, and the participation of these Chinese traders thus brings into the fray the Gulf of Thailand as well as the nexus, along with the Indian Ocean, as I tried to talk about. So the whole idea was not to show you a lot of points, but to show you what exactly was happening in this whole region. It's not a very simple thing, and it's not in a single line, but multiple things. Along with the objects, ideas are also traveling. You take the idea, you take the symbolism as the beginning point, but then you have to detach yourself from that, see the indigenous elements of those regions, how they are getting transformed, and how they adopt and adapt to the whole situation, and then things move on. So, while we are working on this region, we have to keep all these things into mind and think about a very complex network which is braided, at the same time it's connected and also disjointed. So it's kind of a relay race also happening between all these regions. We have to keep the mainland as well as the maritime Southeast Asian constellation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sushmita, for a wonderful presentation, and I really apologize we could not give to the speakers the time that they deserve. Well, I will now invite Shreyoshi Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of History, Amity Institute of Social Science, Amity University, Kolkata, to make a presentation. Shreyoshi.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a very great opportunity for me that I will remain precise about what I'm going to present today. We have seen, as our eminent scholars have since the morning have pointed out, that this region, which is very important, it is a region where network, the trade network, the commercial network is a region where, as Matt has right now had pointed out, that braided nexus and also the connectivity which actually characterizes this region, the region which is the Bay of Bengal and especially the northern Bay littoral that is the focus of the study. I will not much delve upon the already discussed historiography and scholarly perspectives which have been already been talked about. To remain precise, I will directly come upon what I have tried to analyze. And my work primarily looks into the Bay of Bengal region from the 16th to 20th till 19th century, and I look this region to be significant for the British English East India Company and the state making process. Why? Sorry. So. The northern Bay of Bengal region, as I have tried to argue, that it has also been very important to the British imagination. Why? Because in a recent study, Birla Mukherjee has argued that this entire region from the Mughal administration onwards, Bengal especially became a part of the northern hinterland, and the Bay region became more and more a part of the southeast region, southeast area. This particular imagination continued even under the British colonial administration. However, as my paper seeks to argue that British imagination has always have dealt with the Bay of Bengal, the northern Bay region and the southeast region, especially Burma, because of the fact that Bengal, they was able to control Bengal and Bihar region, and with that their strategy, their military strategy was primarily to control the northern Bay of Bengal region, and as a result of which they could create a state comprising Bengal, Bihar and Burma, which is by 19th century they was able to create. This is primarily my focus. And why I am arguing this? Because the Bay of Bengal region was the region from where the British collected, the British procured one of the most important material for their artillery, for their military production, and that is saltpeter. Saltpeter, which they collected from Bihar region and Bengal region, could only be maneuvered through these as we have already seen, these littorals of Bengal, and can be passed to the Bay of Bengal region. From there, the ships passed to the ships navigated and they went to Europe. So here, my paper tries to argue that Bay of Bengal as a region continued to remain the focus of British mercantile and colonial imagination, as Bengal littoral and the northern Bay region was the only passage to British military resource and the gunpowder artillery empire. The region emerged as a central to British imagination since the second half of the 17th century. To English East India Company and Britain, Bihar, Bengal and its estuary and the northern Bay of Bengal region was crucial interface on which depended the fate of the British artillery empire. The gunpowder, central to 18th century British military strategy, drew its entire resource of saltpeter from Bihar, Bengal region. Bihar was the primary grounds of saltpeter production. Saltpeter, I must say that it is potassium nitrate, and when gunpowder is made, three of the most important elements of gunpowder is saltpeter and charcoal and sulfur, out of which Bihar emerged as the most important region for almost for all the European companies by 17th century, because Bihar produced potassium nitrate, which is the most beneficial, which is the most important for gunpowder making, because it is less hygroscopic, that is, it attains less moisture. So that's why we can see that Bihar was the primary ground of saltpeter production, from where, due to its heavy weightage, the saltpeter were transported through the river passages towards the south in the Murshidabad of Bengal. From these, the saltpeter through their specific boats came down to Calcutta and were shipped to England. I will skip and I will say that one of the most earliest imagination, one of the most earliest writings of the English regarding Bengal and how they are important. One of the earliest English account of Bay and its Bengal and its Bay comes from the travel accounts of Edward Terry. Now, why I have highlighted this, because Edward Terry has talked about the Northern Bay region till China. And in contrast to that, the contemporary European imagination, Terry has placed Bengal and China adjacent territories, and he saw the region as a part of the Gulf, adjacent to which was Bengal and various other eastern countries and China. Am I audible? Eastern countries and China. And describing the region of Bengal and the east, Terry wrote that Gore, which is Gore, the chief city, so-called, it is full of mountains. The Saraswati River, he mentioned Saraswati River, which discharges itself in Ganges, begins in its Patan. Now here his geographical account is not so sound, but here again he comes back and he says that the river Saraswati, parts of it which goes to Patan, that Gore are the northeast bounds of this great monarchy. Now he comes to Patna. Patna, Bihar, the chief city so-called, the river of Ganges bounds it on the west, Saraswati on the east. It is a very fertile province. Now why I have taken Terry's account, because he remains very insightful, and he sees the commercial network that connected Central Asia, North India to the extreme south of extreme Southeast Asia and China in totality. So he sees the entire Bay of Bengal region in totality, which also connects with this huge hinterland which goes to Central Asia too. Another very important account is of Thomas Bowery. I think we are all aware it is a very important account, a geographical account of the countries around the Bay of Bengal. Bowery was first an interloper. He was a private merchant who later joined English East India Company, and he gives a detailed and extensive account of the littoral of Bay of Bengal. And he points out that the book he has written is divided into various chapters, and those chapters are basically all the coasts, such as the Coromandel coast, which followed by the Jinjali coast, which is the Golconda, Orissa, Bengala, Arakan, and it ends with the Cochin, that is the coast of Cochin. Bowery extends the Bay of Bengal region from the Coromandel to the coast of Cochin. The importance of his inquiry can be noted in various other aspects. He gives a detailed account of boats. We have already seen that how many different accounts of boats which were used. He says that there were different kinds of boats which were utilized by almost all the European companies so that the saltpeter could be laden. Now, why it is important for us to understand that why saltpeter? Because saltpeter was so heavy in weight that it can only be transported through boats. We are discussing in a time when it was pre-steamship and pre-train. The modern technology was not there. However, we had, and what Bowery's account points out, that there are different kinds of boats, which Sir has already pointed out, which maneuvered during that time so that the saltpeter could be brought from Patna to Murshidabad, from Murshidabad to Calcutta, and from Calcutta to the Bay. So there were different kinds of boats which were from indigenous technology, but the Europeans appropriated so that they could maneuver. Why it is important over here? Because for saltpeter, we can understand Bowery notes that saltpeter by the second half of the 17th century grew to be the chief commodity for English trade along with the calicos and silk from the coast of Bengal. Patna was the center of the saltpeter procurement, from which it was loaded on boats for Kusin Bazaar and from thence to Calcutta. The English East India Company had a factory in Patna adjoining to the city. I'm reading from an extract from Thomas Bowery's account, and he points out that all this saltpeter is sent hence to Hooghly in a great flat-bottomed vessel of an exceeding strength, which are called patelas. Each of them will bring down 4, 5, 6,000 Bengala mound, that is saltpeter mounds, to that part. Several other kinds of country boats operated, which have been pointed out by Gowdy. One of them is Pargu, P-U-R-G-O-O, Pargu, which both the English and the Dutch used to carry goods into the roads into this region. There is another boat which was called the Bura, B-O-O-R-A. The Bura, a very flat, light boat which actually only carried saltpeter. We also find Thomas Bowley I have pointed out that the manufacture of saltpeter and the navigation of saltpeter was so significant for the English East India Company and for the other European companies that they utilized all different kinds of boats, and for them they were well aware of these kinds of boats to navigate in the Bengal littoral. Another very significant English correspondence which I find from 1680, which is of, yes, ma'am, I will just finish it up. Lastly, what I want to argue in this paper is that we are discussing, as I have pointed out, that we are discussing a period where the Bay of Bengal now, as it has been pointed out, the Bay of Bengal, the northern Bay of Bengal region has not, we should much work on it. But my paper has tried to point out that it has always remained a very significant part of British imagination and the British state making from 16th century onwards. We find from 19th century onwards manuals, nautical manuals to be produced while they were, even when the steamships were already there. These were produced so that Bay of Bengal, especially the northern Bay of Bengal, is a highly cyclonic zone. So that's why even at that point when technological innovations had already been achieved, the manuals were produced by the British company, by the British state especially, for the navigators over here so that their production, so that they could control the region and they could control the state. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reshi. That was an excellent presentation. Again, constrained by time. I really apologize. Our last speaker today is Rana Rohit, Research Scholar, Department of Economics, University of Calcutta.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am Rana Rohit. I am a PhD research scholar from Department of Economics, University of Calcutta. I am pursuing my PhD on the topic of impact of zero-tillage and mechanical rice transplanter on farm economy in Punjab and Haryana. This is the topic of my PhD. The research paper which I have presented, for which I have done the primary data collection in the field. I went Punjab and Haryana, collected the data in the year 2002. I am enrolled in the year 2019. I got registered in the year 2021, and in the year 2022, I went to Punjab and Haryana for primary data collection. So the research is based on my primary data collection, which I have collected from Punjab and Haryana. The research is based on two technology. As we know that we have adopted rice and wheat cropping system everywhere. This is the most common practice in northern India. Rice in the Kharif season and wheat in the Rabi season. There are two seasons. So this the technology which is called zero tillage is for wheat crop, and the technology which is mechanical rice transplant, it is for rice crop. So these two technology is being used. Why these two technologies is being used? Why not it is being earlier used? As we all know, there is a COVID-19 in the year 2020. and there is a lack of labor in Punjab and Haryana. Maximum laborers are migrating from UP and Bihar to Punjab and Haryana for doing farming business and helping the farmers in doing their job. So there is a shortage of laborers. So how the farmers overcome this situation? They have used these two technologies, and the Punjab government and Haryana government has given subsidy to farmers in order to purchase these two technologies, and these two technologies is being used by them. This technology is being used in the Indo-Gangetic plains of India also. But in Punjab and Haryana, it is mostly commonly used because they are over-dependent on the laborers. So this is the review of literature for zero tillage, and this is the review of literature for mechanical rice transplanter. This is also for mechanical rice transplant. There are two kinds of mechanical rice transplanter. One is walking, which is manual one, and the other is riding, which is also it is not a manual. It is a six phase. It is having, and it cultivates the land. For analyzing, I have used socio-economic tables for analyzing. So I have collected 2 districts of Haryana, 2 districts of Punjab, total 4 districts, 13 blocks of Haryana, 10 blocks of Punjab, 23 blocks were used, 46 villages of Haryana I went for primary data collection, in 38 villages of Punjab. Total 84 villages I went there for primary data collection. Adopters, those who are adopting this technology, because I am doing the impact assessment. Impact assessment can be done only with and without. Those who are having the technology, those who do not have the technology. So, the treatment control which I have used, so adopters are the treatment farmers and control farmers are non-adopters. They did not adopt this technology. So 130 is adopter farmers in Haryana, 130 is adopter farmers in Punjab, and total 260 farmers which are adopter farmers, they have used this technology. And those who did not use this technology are 272 in Haryana, 272 in Punjab, total 544 farmers who did not use these two technologies. So overall 402 farmers have been surveyed in Haryana and 402 farmers are surveyed in Punjab. Total 804 sample site is being used. So this is also 65 in these 2 districts, Karnal and Sonipat is being selected for primary data collection in Punjab. Ludhiana and Moga districts are selected for primary data collection.
Come to your conclusions.
Okay.
Because this we can.
So these are the blocks and villages and districts of Punjab, and this of Punjab. These are the districts of Haryana. In conclusion, I have to say, due to COVID-19 situation, the shortage of labor, because over-dependent on labor, and these UP Bihar laborers are going to Punjab and Haryana in order to search for a seasonal job, seasonal employment. And when COVID-19 situation has happened, nobody went to Punjab and Haryana as a laborer. So how they come to overcome this situation? So they have used these 2 technologies, and I have done the primary data collection and using these technologies in my PhD research work. That is it.
Thank you. So now we have a little time and we can go for some questions. And please direct your questions to the person whom we are asking. Please name the person whom we are asking the question. Yes, sir.
My question is related to Shobhan. A very lovely presentation as usual. I have 2 simple queries. You know the proverb. A cobbler cannot go beyond the sandal. my engagement in portal economics of the local area for 27 years brings me to certain questions on the thing that you have raised. One thing if you could kindly explain to me is, you have been writing continuously in your slides that it is the port of Samandar on the port of Chittagong. Or were these two alternate ports?
Shall I answer?
Yes. No, but
Okay, you finish.
I'll understand
Yeah.
the second one also. The second one brings me to the configuration of the port. See, the configuration of the port, or the depth, the draft of the river, like she was referring to, pointed out the flat bottom ports. Very important, very important. Why were they flat bottom? Similarly, where was there a dock system here, like it is on a river? Was it not like Luther, for example? It was slightly located inside, dictating what kind of ships could come in those periods, particularly. What is your, how anything on the configuration of the port as such? Two very simple questions.
Simple but very difficult to explain
Thank you very much.
for the dearth of sources. Now, first of all, it is or Chittagong because we don't get the exactly what Chittagong in early times. Chittagong comes a little later. So Samandar, the problem is these two questions are interrelated. The problem is like as Rishi could say, or even in the when we look at the Portuguese account or other accounts, we have this description of the ports. How the Portuguese called it Porto Grande, Chittagong, because they had a very strong understanding of how the port worked. But for the problem of Samandar, as I mentioned, that we have reference, we are a little it's a flux kind of thing. We have mention of the port of Samandar in Harikela, in Harkan, in Bahar Harkan, which was same as the Bay of Bengal. But these are only textual sources. We do not have any kind of, from those periods, any kind of description that what was the structure of the port as we study now, or what kind of the anchorage system, or how the port, whether even if we go much earlier, Periplus gives some kind of references to the port of Barugaza, that there is a creek and then it is difficult to go. For Samandar, we do not have any kind of things. What we have, the Arab geographers and the travelers, but what is important is that they are saying that there is a port in Bahar Harkan, and this port and the nature of the port if you match with Chittagong port, which is discussed, is the same. So then the question arises, and that's why I was showing that linear post-British map so much. The question arises, Tamralipta goes into fades out by 8th century. We have only one inscription, the Dupani rock inscription, which talks about the port of Tamralipta. After that, we have nothing. We know that Sindhi had done. Now, Srivijaya ruler says that he sends emissaries to Nalanda for Latin. Then how will the ruler of Srivijaya reach Nalanda? Landlocked, Bihar is landlocked. Earlier they used to come to Tamralipta, we have earlier, and then go. So the other alternative is then we look at these Arab geographical sources and we find that they talk about a port called Samandar. So therefore we are linking this 2-3 things together and then trying to find out. And then in context of Southeast Asia also, there are a lot of references which talks about that we have this kind of movement from these periods. As I said, if you look at the art historical material, Shushmita was talking about tin. Now tin is a very important element in the making of bronze. Southwestern Bangladesh do not produce tin. Then where from the tin was coming? And this relates to and then the shipwreck evidence at the port, we have this in the Java Sea. So tin was from the early historic period, there are these tin minting sites in Lower Myanmar, in Peninsula Thailand, Ranong, which is a very important tin minting site. So you have these tins are coming to Southeastern Bangladesh, to Chittagong, and then the manufacturing technique is of the Chittagonians, those people were there. So therefore, and this is proved by a cache of 67 bronze objects that has been found from Jiwari it's called, from Chittagong. So in this way, it is like hunting into, like you are blind, you don't know where to go, and then hunting into various textual sources, and then climbing into the epigraphic sources. One epigraphic source talks of Chantala or area. So from there you can come. And that is why this is the weaving of the story of the court of Samandar without any concrete like scientific or data where it is. So the narration comes from the different sources, the multiple sources. Yes, yeah, that I've mentioned. And the clinching evidence was the Sunday, which I mentioned, the Sunday, because the Arab travelers talks about that there is a very nearby, there is a very important island. And near Chittagong, if you look at the west coast, so there is the island of Sunday. So all these things brought together has been identified. And Samandar was also in another sense, like at Sukpawan. I won't take much time. So I think I made myself clear.
Thank you so much.
This came later than Tamilitas.
But
this was also one port based on the river.
Yeah.
This one also comes up wonderfully.
Wonderfully.
So, was there any kind
Excuse
of
me,
similarity?
you can carry on because you are having, I think, a very long conversation over lunch. Because other people may also have questions. Yes,
Even the image done in his book, Rock Painting, Rock Art in Malaysia.
switch on your.
Even that Einstein in his book, that is the Rock Art Malaysia, he mentioned that the Indian traders visited Malaysia for collecting the tea, and the Kinta Valley is very famous for having that the tea ore or the tea. So that is why.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
You know, any other question? Please.
Yeah. What came to my mind is, like when you have the word Bahar Harkan, Bahar is a word which is also used for rivers and any kind of water body up to the sea. But the change of the term from Bahar Harkan to Samandar is something very interesting. Very specifically, they now call it Samandar, and it is all near the
Here actually Bahar is Persian, Arabic Persian term, which means the sea.
And so it's from water, for sea, any kind of
but generally it is used.
And when it comes to Samandar, it's very specific, of a particular.
Samandar comes from Samudra.
Yes,
and
that is what it's
that
still
time,
used.
Any kind of water body, and we have seen this, ma'am, not only in this area. What the local terms were adopted by the travelers who were coming. For example, in early Periplus, we have Barugaza. Now, the Sanskritized term of Barugaza is Bhrigugacha, but Barugaza comes from Bharugacha. Bharugacha, Prakrit, Bharugacha, Barugaza. So Samandar eats from Samandar, Samudra, and then from that. So we have one source which talks about Harkan, also of Samandar. They act together in the same breath. So therefore, there within Harkan, there could be the place of Samandar. So that makes it very clear.
Did anybody archaeologically look for the site? Did they do any survey?
No. Actually, this is so much of like peopling is there so much. So archaeological nothing, no work has been done on this coast. So all the work starts from actually the 14th century, and then it goes on like of the Marco Polo also talks about this. Then, but then archaeologically nothing has been done. Only some exploration.
Any other question? Yes, Bandrika.
All right. Thank you so much for those two interesting presentations, Professor Ghosh and Majumdar. Actually, I'm not a historian, but as a student of anthropology, when I had to do a comparative study of two cultures, the Tibeto-Burman and the Austro-Asiatic, it was part of my PhD. I was trained in DNA research, so it's got nothing to do with history. But whenever I see, and since I'm a Khasi, a Mon Khmer speaking, so whenever I see this kind of a cross-cultural comparison between the two, which I did at that time, the cowrie shells played a significant role in my traditional religion at that time. I was too young to observe it, but of late I haven't found a single cowrie shell used today. But it was part and parcel of our identity, that perhaps we had a sudden coastal sea route migration so that those shells had reached into our culture. So I'm referring to that. I heard these words, just now we had mentioned about Ranong, a kind of a location where perhaps it's brass.
I said Ranong.
Ranong. Yeah, we have these kinds of terms as well. So linguistically, if you trace our language, this refers to us as brass, all right? So brass is a kind of, again, it's used as part of jewelry, and Khasis don't use brass, so we are cut off with that. But the Tibeto-Burman, that is their identity, Perhaps, again, maybe tomorrow when I speak of these migratory routes, I might go into the thing that Tibeto-Burman, they have more of affinity with Burma, Myanmar, whereas the Austroasiatic is by sea. The other one, I wanted to know about those, whether you get the use of gold in jewelry, or the cowrie shells, or the bead material that some of the, I know of archaeologists who does works on beads. They try to trace those kinds of migratory routes of people and the carnelian shells, as they call it. And these two are somewhat there in the missing link of connecting people and place and language, but I was so glad to hear these two. I've never listened to it, but now I know that it is still related to proto-history, right?
And we have a big specialist also here, Professor Selva Kumar, who had worked a lot on this, the Tamil region and the Korapian, Klongtom and other. Yes. So maybe during lunchtime you can talk to him and he can enlighten you.
Definitely. Tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was quite nice.
So any other questions?
My question to Dr. Basu Majumdar, please can I have your attention, madam? To you. You were talking about the cowrie shells. They had been in predominant and prominent use as trading systems, as coins, as currencies in the earlier eras. But right now the case is not like that, because we do have metal coins and currencies of notes. So the thing is that apart from this particular usage, there are also customary usage in the customs, ceremonies, and these are particularly restricted to the people who are residing in the coastal and riverine areas, or is it also prevalent in the mainland as well? Because the declining population of cowrie shells is a major matter of concern. The conches or the other shells and oysters, they are in human usage as consumption as well. So I would like to focus you on that point.
Very quickly, I'll just give you an answer for this. Yes, the cowrie shells are into the cultural psyche of the people, not only of Bengal but also of other cultures. But in Bengal, it is engraved. Today also we still have it in the Lokki Chapi. It is money for us. At the same time, we also name our sons, like as Professor Bandyopadhyay was also mentioning yesterday in our seminar, we name our sons 3 kodi, 1 kodi, 7 kodi. So this is just again a monetary value and also a superstition that you give away your child, and purchase it back. So that's another kind of a psyche. And then the third angle is more important, that initially it was only with the Buddhists that cowrie shells were taken as ritual object with the burial culture or the dead culture. But now today, when we stand here, we still have cowrie shells in our burial custom, funeral custom, and we use 10 cowrie shells in Hindu rituals. Every time, 5 for purchasing the Vasumata permission, 5 for the dough. So still it continues, and to our utter surprise, we did an ethno-archaeological survey, and still they use Cypra moneta and Cypra annulus. So this thing has not changed, and all the cowrie shells come from Maldives till date.
But cowrie shells also, I think, Africa.
No, they went from Maldives to Africa.
They
It's a
went from
major
Maldives to
nexus now.
Africa because there also they consider the same kind of even ritual and symbolic.
Yes.
Any other questions, please? Yeah, please, sir.
Rana Rohit. Yes. So I would like to know what really happened post-Corona, because we are talking about the situation in Corona time when people were using this mechanical chile. I think, did you do any survey on the situation post-Corona? What about the migration? How it impacted the migration?
Sir, see, before migration, these labor-intensive methods are being used, traditional methods are being used. But due to COVID-19, all UP-Bihar laborers, they do not migrate.
After COVID, he's asking after COVID.
After COVID situation, once the farmer is adopted this technology, they don't want to leave this technology.
No, but I'm asking, did you do any survey to see how the migration changed? Because then only your work will become complete.
Now they do not employ the UP-Bihar laborers now.
Did it stop completely?
Yes, it stopped completely.
Maybe you need to produce some statistics.
Yeah, I have statistics. This is the initial stage. Right now, I'm still completing my thesis. I have to submit my thesis by November or December this year. 2024 in the Department of Economics. So if you get in touch with me, I will let you know. You can have my email ID.
Okay, that you can do over lunch. So shall we end this session now? Because we are all waiting to have lunch. Thank you everyone. Thank you.